Hello everyone, in this tutorial we're going to do another dormer, and I've picked this one, and like in the previous tutorial you can download a project file where the reference image has already been added. So this is part of this picture here, but we're only going to do this dormer here. Like with the previous dormer, I'm going to start with flat geometry and create an outline of the entire object first before I start extruding everything into three-dimensional geometry. And we're only going to have a couple of objects, so the challenge is to model most of this as a single piece of geometry. We're only going to have four objects. One is the stone frame, the other one is the window frame, glass, and these stone ornaments. So let's add a disk, and I'll change the orientation to -z. Let's scale this down a bit. Maybe I'll just move the image over a little bit further. And I'll make this a little bit smaller. Let's do maybe 25 here, and I'll double the segments. If I hit NH, I can switch to wireframe mode. I'll just make this image a little more transparent. And also we don't need any segments. And I'll make this disk editable, and I'm going to select the edges on the outside and extrude them. So let's do maybe 4.5 here, and this ring we've just created will eventually become the window frame. And I'm going to extrude again. Let's see, I think I will do 4.5 again. We have to improvise a little bit because we have a lot of perspective distortion in this image. And let's extrude again, and this time let's do maybe 7 centimeters. I like to work with even numbers. And extrude again, maybe 2 centimeters, and again, and for this one I'm going to do 5, and let's do another 2 centimeters for the last extrusion. And since the object is symmetrical, we can get rid of half of it. Now let's see, over here I'm going to make a couple of cuts like so, and we can then dissolve these edges. Well, this one is already straight, so we don't need to change that, but I'm going to make a cut like this. And then we can dissolve these edges here. So something like this. And I'm going to select these edges and extrude them out, scale them down. Move them to about here, and deselect these edges, extrude these over, and then select this edge and extrude it out. And I'll add another cut here, and then select these edges, and I'm going to scale them and make these 2 centimeters, and I'll make another cut here, and then just weld these points. next I'm going to delete a lot of geometry down here. So I'm going to select all of the points all the way down to this point here. Actually, let's get rid of these ones. So let's see, I think I'm going to use this one, and I'll make a cut straight across, so maybe that's a little easier to see where I'm going with this. And we can, let's just weld these points here to this one, and I'll just select these points again and delete them. And actually we can get rid of these ones as well. And now we can take these edges here and extrude them over, scale them down, and move them over to about here, extrude again, and let's go to about here maybe. I think I'll just line these points up by scaling them down. And over here, what I'll do is I'll just weld these points, deselect everything and optimize. So something like this. And down here, I'll just get rid of these points here. And I think I'll just make another cut. Like so, and then delete these points. Let's also get rid of this one. And I'm going to select the edges down here and just extrude them down to about here. And extrude them again to about here. And we can probably move these ones up again, like so. And let's extrude these over to about here. And let's do another extrusion. And I think I'll just move these points up a little bit. Now up here, we need this edge to be straight. Like so. And here we have another small ledge that needs to be continued over here. So I think what I'll do is I'll just make a 45-degree cut here. And another cut here. And let's see, this is 1.775. And we need this to be 2. So I'm just going to copy this, select these points and scale them. Like so. Or maybe I'll just connect these 2 points, continue this cut here, then weld these 2 points, get rid of this edge, and then we can also get rid of these edges actually. something like this. And I'll just space these edges apart more evenly by using the HB even distribution script from the HB modeling bundle. So maybe something like this. And I don't want all of this geometry over here, because basically we only need the geometry to get an even and smooth curve here. But down here we don't need all of these edges anymore, so I think what I'll do is I'll just move these all to 0 on the x-axis. And let's go ahead and do the same with these points here. And I'll just weld these to this point for now. Let's just optimize this. And now we can weld this point down to here. And we're getting a bit of distortion. I'm not liking this too much. So maybe eventually we'll bring 1 or 2 edges down to the bottom of the object, because something like this will probably cause issues when we try to bevel the edges. But for now, let's just keep it like that and see how things turn out. So I think next we can start extruding. We have all the edges in place that we need, and we should be able to create a 3-dimensional object now. And basically how I'm going to do this is I'll extrude all of the roof section forward and I'll extrude the rest backwards. I'm going to select these polygons here and these ones and these ones, and let's extrude these back a bit. I'll do -3, delete this polygon and this one down here, and then ring select these polygons and delete them. Same down here. Let's get rid of these polygons. And let's delete these ones. And I'm going to select these points here, switch on snapping, and use axis extension to straighten these ones out here. Deselect everything and optimize the object. And I'm also going to add ambient occlusion. Okay, so that's looking good. And let's go back to polygon mode. And select these polygons here. And these ones. And these ones. And extrude those back another 3 centimeters. And using the knife tool, I'm going to make a cut here. something like this. And I'll just weld these points down. I think I did this wrong. Okay, so this created a little bit of a mess. I'll just get rid of these polygons here. Extrude these edges down. Line them up like this. Weld these points, and let's create a polygon here. And here. And let's close this hole here. And we need to move this point over a little bit and snap it to this point. And actually I think we don't need these polygons at all, so let's just get rid of these. And I'll just extrude this one over. Weld these 2 points. Create another polygon here. Extrude this edge over and weld the point to here. Create another polygon here. I'll just snap this point to this one, and this one to this one. Optimize the object, and let's close this polygon hole. Dissolve this edge here. Okay, that's looking a little better. So I've just deleted 2 polygons here, and now I can just ring select these ones and delete them. And I'm also going to delete these ones here and optimize the object again. And I'll just extrude these ones back a little bit. Let's just do maybe 2 centimeters or so. And again, delete 2 polygons, and using the ring selection, I'm selecting these ones, and I'll delete these as well. Okay, so that's not looking too bad so far. And next we can extrude the roof section. So let's go ahead and do that. Do we need these polygons here? Not really. So all we need now is these polygons here. And I'll extrude them forward. Let's do 2 centimeters. And I'm just going to, let's just ring select these ones and these ones. And then deselect everything down here. I'll select these ones and these ones, and I'll just extrude those. Let's see how that looks. I'm pretty happy with that. Now we need to get rid of some polygons here, like this one. And the ones here at the center. Let's optimize the object. And I think when I ring selected the polygons up here, I also selected the ones that were still there. So we need to fix this area here by using the knife tool, and I'll just make a cut like this and delete these 2 or 4 points. So now we need to extrude the rest of the shape. I'll just weld these points here. Let's get rid of these edges. I can now extrude this over. And snap it to here. Optimize the object, and then I'll just create a polygon here. And extrude this edge back. Snap it to here. Create another polygon here. I'm just going to optimize. Let's create another polygon like so. And let's just get rid of this edge here. And I'm going to extrude these 2 edges. And I think we need to use an offset of 3 here with an angle of -90 degrees. And let's do this twice. The second time we don't need any angle. And then we can close these holes up there. Same here. I think we can just weld these points here, which means we can get rid of these edges. Just undo that. And let's say delete this point. Select these edges. We also need to get rid of this polygon here. And for now I'm going to weld these 2 points. So I've got all of these edges selected here, and I'll extrude them back 3 centimeters twice. Deselect everything and optimize the object. I'll extrude these ones back. Optimize. And now I'm just going to select all the edges at the back. And extrude them back. And let's move them to about here maybe. And that's looking pretty good. And if you take a look at the reference image, we have these round areas in those corners here. So what I'll do is I'll select this edge and bevel it, and I'm going to use limit and a couple of subdivisions, and let's just bring the offset up a little bit, and this will create quite a bit of a mess. In order to prevent that from happening, we can temporarily dissolve this edge here. Now if I bevel, I will not get that problem. Let's optimize, and I'm also going to weld this point to here. And down here I'm going to bevel this edge. Let's see how that turns out. And we have a similar problem as before, so I'm going to dissolve this edge for now. Bevel again, and that's still not working. So I think what I'll do is I just select this edge and connect it to create a point, and then I can connect these 2 points, and hopefully we will be able to bevel this edge now. And if I recall correctly, we also have a round area down here. First of all though, I'm going to extrude these polygons out a little bit. For some reason I seem to have deleted this part at some point. And let's select this edge here and bevel it. I'll just use 5 subdivisions again. Let's do an offset of 6. And I'll just make a cut here, and I'll make another one here. And I guess we could just move these points up if we wanted to. Snap them to this line and optimize the object. Next I want to clean up the geometry a little bit and reduce the polygon count. I'm going to start up here by welding these points. And now we can dissolve all of these edges here. And down here, I'm just going to weld all of these points to this corner. We can get rid of all of these edges here by dissolving them. So maybe we can weld these points up here. And get rid of these edges. I'm also going to dissolve these ones. And we could try and weld these ones, I guess. And get rid of these edges. And we could also weld these points, which means that we can get rid of all of these edges down here. Just make a cut here and dissolve these edges. Now we still got a triangle here. I'm not going to remove all of them, but some of them. And up here I'm just going to remove the n-gons. And we also have a triangle up here. We can simply remove that by welding these points. And I'll just connect these edges, connect these points. Connect these edges and just move this point over. And down here, I'll just move these edges over a little bit and then weld these points, which means we can get rid of these edges here. I'll remove the n-gon. Same here. And there's plenty of ways you can do that. Well, let's just dissolve these edges here. We still got 4 n-gons. Just going to optimize, which didn't do anything. So up here we just need to remove a couple of points. And this one we can just use remove n-gons. Which leaves these two. And over here I'll just make a cut from this point. That's the easiest way to get rid of that n-gon. And that just leaves this one. And here we only need to get rid of this point to fix that. This area over here, I think I want to change it, because if I add a bevel deformer and let's switch on angle, if I change that to uniform, it's still going to be a problem in this area. Let's bring this down a little bit. Well, actually it's working, but not too well, and we're getting an issue down here as well. So I do want to change the geometry a little bit. I think it's just a matter of dissolving these edges here, and then we could just make cuts down like this. And then let's add that bevel deformer again. Switch on angle. And it's still a problem in the area where all these edges meet. Let's see. I think I'll just keep this. Let's dissolve these edges. And maybe let's just weld these 2 points. And I'll make cuts from these 2 points. And then we can connect these two. One, two, three, four. Actually, we have a quad here. All we need to do is move this point around a bit to change this into a better quad. And you can see now if I use the bevel deformer, I'm getting a nice bevel here. So the only problematic areas are these ones. And what we can do maybe to try and fix this is dissolve these edges and turn these into quads. Let's try that again. Yeah, it's not really getting any better. But there's not much we can do to fix this, I think. What we could try is make a cut from this point. And see if that makes things better. I doubt it though, because we have these edges that are so close together, and that's probably the main problem here. So if I bevel this, it's not going to do, it's not a big improvement. I could just select all of these points and try and move these up a little bit. Oh, we do seem to have other issues as well. No, we don't. We just need to deselect this point here. So let's move these up a bit. Looks like we do still have an issue. So I'm going to deselect everything and optimize the object. Let's just check down here. Everything seems to be fine. So I'm just reselecting these points and moving them up a little bit. And you can see that is looking a little bit better. So maybe we can even get rid of these edges again. Okay, let's maybe move this over a little bit, see if that does anything. At this, like this, at least it won't be as noticeable. Let's just try and move these up a little bit further. See if that does anything to improve the situation. I'll just deselect these points. Let's make sure to select this one as well. I'll just snap this one. And then even out the geometry. Is this still causing issues? It does. I'm just going to dissolve these edges. The problem is that this polygon here, if I delete this, it is a quad, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 edges, but the problem is it's a quad that's folding in on itself here, and sometimes that can cause issues. And sometimes it helps to just delete the polygon and close that polygon hole like I just did, and it does look a little bit better. Let's see how that renders. So that's looking okay. If we add a couple of subdivisions, let's see how that looks. So at least when we render, we get a decent looking bevel, but areas like these will always be a problem. I'll just try and make this curve look a little nicer if I can. So sometimes the way I create the geometry depends a bit on whether or not I can bevel the edges without any problems. So that's looking good. So I'm fairly happy with this. Just switch off the bevel deformer and I'll make a copy. And this is the dormer. And I think I'll just make this editable. I'll just make another cut here at the center. And now let's continue with the window frame. And for the window frame, we only need these polygons here. So I'm going to delete everything else and optimize it. And I'll put this in a symmetry object, which I'll make editable. And I'll just select the edges on the outside and scale this down just a little bit. Let's undo that. And this is one of those times where changing the modeling axis can really screw up your model, so we need to reset this to 0 before we scale this down a little bit. And that's just so we get a little gap between this edge here and the window frame, which will create additional depth and additional detail. And let's have a look. And I'll just select these points here at the center, and let's scale these down a bit. Maybe something like this. Let's undo that. I think I'm going to slide these points instead. Yeah, well, that's also going to change the curvature a little bit, but not as much as scaling. So let's try and scale this in. Let's do 39. And I'll scale this one, or slide this one. Again, 39. Same here. And here. And then we can use the stitch and sew tool to create that bar. I'm also going to slide these points over. And let's just use a symmetry object to create the right half. We also need to make some cuts to be able to connect the geometry. going to stitch and sew these together. And let's mirror this over. Make it editable. I'm going to align the normals, optimize just in case, and then extrude this forward. Let's do 4, and then ring select these polygons, extrude these forward, maybe 1.5 or so. And let's move this back a bit. I'm also going to add a bevel deformer to this one, switch on use angle, and we'll also do a small offset. Let's do 1 or 2 subdivisions. So that's looking pretty good. And there's one more thing to do, which is the stones at the top and at the bottom. For these ornamental stones here, I'm going to start with a simple plane. I'll set this to -Z, scale it down. Let's call this stone. And we need 2 width segments and 1 height segment. Let's just hide everything else for now. I'll move this down into position here, and I'll move the reference image over a little bit to about here. And let's scale this up a little bit. Let's do something like this for now. And I'll make this editable and delete these 2 points. And then I'll just make a couple of cuts using the loop cut tool. And I'll just delete these 2 points. And let's select these edges here and extrude them back a bit. And I'm going to bevel these edges, something like this. And then I'll make a couple of cuts to remove the n-gons. So first we need some edges here. And then we can select these polygons and remove the n-gons. Now you can see this is working differently at the top and at the bottom. So I'll just undo this and remove this n-gon. And for this one, I'll just connect the points manually, like so. And then we can ring select. Let's see, we need this one. Did I create enough edges? No, I didn't. Let's just ring select these edges here. Actually, we don't need to ring select these. We can just make a cut like this, and I'll just move these edges over a little bit to about here. So now we can ring select these polygons. Apparently these points are not connected, so I'll do this again, ring select these polygons and extrude them a little bit. And I'll just move these down and these ones up a little bit. And I'm also going to select these points and weld them to this one. Let's not forget this one up here. And down here I'm going to weld these points and then just dissolve these edges. So now we can use a symmetry object. I'll make this editable. And I'm going to add an FFD deformer. And if you hold down the Shift key, if you have the stone selected and hold down the Shift key while adding the deformer, it will automatically be added as a child and it will automatically fit to the parent. And for the FFD deformer, we only need the minimum of points, which is 2 on each of the axes. And then we can just select the points at the top and scale these down like so. I'll also add a bevel deformer, and we should add this after the FFD deformer. Switch on use angle. I'm going to reduce the radius to, maybe let's do 0.3 and 2 subdivisions. So we've got something like this now. I'm going to switch everything else back on. And let's move this down a bit to about here. Go to point mode. I'll just move these points up a little bit to about here. Okay, something like this. And for the dormer, I'm going to move these points forward a little bit. Select the points of the stone and I'll just snap them to the rear edge of the dormer. So let's make a copy of this. Stone bottom, and this will be stone top. Let's rotate this around minus 180 and then just move it up. To about here. And we need to move this one forward a little bit. And in point mode, I'm going to snap the points to the back of the dormer. And I'll create a simple white material I'm going to put on the dormer and the stones. And the only thing we still need is the window pane. I'll just create a cube for this. Scale it down. So let's make it about this big. And let's change the width. I'll make this maybe 1.5. I'll put a white material on there and we need to move this back a bit to about here maybe. And I'm selecting the stone and the window frame. I'll move these back in a little bit. So that's looking pretty nice. I still don't like this area down here, but I think what we can do to try and fix that is, if I go to point mode, let's just try and connect these 2 points and see what happens. You can see that is working pretty well, so I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Just select these 2 points and connect them. And for the window frame, there's also a couple of changes I want to make. Well, actually only one change. I would just like to even out the geometry. So I'm going to select all of these edges here. And deselect the ones here. These ones and these ones. And I'll just run the even distribution script and we can get rid of these edges here. And that is our finished dormer. Let's do a quick cell render using color and edges. I think we got pretty nice looking geometry too. And there's one more slight change I'd like to make. Let's select the top and bottom stones. Because I can see the geometry intersecting a little bit, I'll just move these forward just a little bit. Like this. Now we don't have that geometry intersecting anymore. So that is the end of this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you again soon.